Welcome everybody to Fantasy Inc. My name is Wyeth, and today we're going to be going over my top 10 favorite series of all time. Been really looking forward to doing this video, and I hope y'all stick around to enjoy my top picks. Let's do this. At spot number 10, we're going to be going over the Kingkiller Chronicles. This is a series y'all will definitely be aware of. It is one of my, as well as many of my friends' favorite book series. Although the last book has not been released yet, the first two are magnificent and definitely high praise. For those of you who may not know, the story follows Quoth, our protagonist. He is an innkeeper and is joined by a gentleman known as Chronicler looking to dictate his life. This is when the series jumps back to Quoth's earlier years when he's a child, and we get to see him grow up through the span of two books. What I really enjoy about this series is the great writing style and the attention to detail that the author puts into his work. Quoth is a very likable character, which always helps as a protagonist, and getting to see his drive for ambition being stifled by the financial concerns he has is a great way to see how the young man is built up. One of my good friend's favorite parts about this book is he's not an OP character. He is definitely just a regular guy who tries his hardest and is able to gain the system in ways that, as a reader, you do not see coming. I'm really looking forward to the finale of this series, whether it be just the third book or if Patrick Rothfuss actually does a fourth book. Since there's a lot to wrap up here, we'll have to see, but it's definitely one y'all should check on out. Number 9 in this series review is going to have to be The Poppy War. The Poppy War is a very great dark fantasy that really dives deep into how grim war can be. And if you add magic on top of it, it can get pretty bad. Our main protagonist, Rin, who is an orphan raised by a pretty bad family at the beginning of the book, is trying to pass a test so she can be accepted into a military academy. Here's where she really starts to hone her powers and realizes that she has the potential of greatness. Though she is trapped between the political machinations of her own country and the wars going on around her, she has to find out a way to not only save herself, but save her people in general. This is a great series to check on out if you're into darker fantasy, like I mentioned, because, like I said, it is pretty grim. If you're looking for a female protagonist who is willing to cross lines that you would not expect them to cross, this is the series for you. She is extremely ruthless, which makes sense because the events that she's dealing with are just the same. Feel free to check this one out if you haven't already, and let's jump into series number 8. The Gentleman Bastard series is one of my favorites and would be much higher on this list if it was already finished. I have high expectations for it. Our protagonist, Locke Lamora, is a young man who is taken into a nefarious organization hosted by Chains. There he learns the skills needed to survive as a street rat. He's trained in not only stealing, but as well as conning and pitting one's political machinations against another. Not only do we get great flashbacks of his earlier years where he's learning these skills, but also the present where he's a young man trying to protect the Gentleman Bastards and grow enough wealth to live comfortably. This series goes in many different directions, and book by book, the world itself expands. The magic system is very much on the back end of the book and is not focused on, but the further you get in the series, you learn a little more piece by piece. This is a great series to check out if you're a fan of political intrigue, as well as underground organizations that deal in crime. Highly recommend, and for those of you who have read it, feel free to jump in the comments to sing its praises. Coming in at number 7, we have Cradle, having started in 2016. Our main character, Lyndon, is born into a small clan in a very remote valley. He has no magical aptitude, which definitely ostracizes himself to his clan, but after a large event where he meets a very powerful being, he is set on a path to not only save the clan that has shunned him, but going on to probably save the world as a whole. This series definitely allows you to escape into Lyndon's struggle as well as the struggle of the world Cradle itself. And as the series grows, you get to see not only are the problems of this world going to hamper it, there's some big battles going on in the universe surrounding this small world that are going to affect our main characters. But as they grow in power, I imagined that they are going to be able to fight these forces at the end of the day. As a whole, you can see Lyndon's path for power being very much overpowered at some point in time, but with great guidance from a few mentors of him, you can understand why and how he's getting as strong as he is. This is a long series with a decent chunk of books out, but the finale is supposed to come out this year, and I cannot wait to read it. If you're interested in seeing how someone who is stunted at the beginning grows to become one of the biggest powerhouses of his world, I highly recommend this series. My sixth favorite series has to be The Wheel of Time. This is one of the pillars of fantasy in general. For those of you who have not had the pleasure, The Wheel of Time is on par with The Lord of the Rings as one of the most respected fantasy series out there, written by Mr. Jordan himself, as well as Brandon Sanderson, who came to finish the last bit of the series. These books actually were the beginning of many of the tropes that we see in current fantasy. Our main character, Rand al'Thor, as well as many of his friends, are tasked with defeating the evil that has beset the world throughout the entirety of existence, to my understanding, and they are able to grow in power. Though life takes them all in different directions, the attention to detail that Mr. Jordan put into each one of their character arcs and the experiences they go through is magnificent. This is a hefty series to get into, like I mentioned, with over 4 million words combined throughout all the books and 1,000 named characters. Amazon Prime just did a full season on the first book, which was fairly decent in the grand scheme of things. And if you're looking for more information on the series, Daniel Green, another booktuber, does a fantastic job really diving into why these books are worth the read. Number 5 on my top favorite series list has to be The Wandering Inn. I just recently did a video on the series as a whole, so I won't dive into too much detail. The link is in the description below if you're interested in checking that out. But all in all, this is a great web serial to open your eyes to lit RPG if you haven't already. Our main character Aaron is taken from our world and tossed into this new one filled with magic and different magical species. Over the course of many books, she is able to not only grow as an innkeeper, but become a fairly influential person around the culture and the lives of the people around her. This series is definitely one of the longer ones. Currently, there are 9 audiobooks out, the last book being Tears of Lascaux, but if you were to go to the website, if you want to read it, there are in actuality 34 books out. My favorite thing about this book series has to be how engrossed you become into these characters' lives. You really pull for some while you really hate others, and it is a feat that an author can pull this emotion out of you while you're reading it, because not many can. So you should definitely check this one out if you haven't already. Number 4 on this list is the Dresden Files. Known to be a very popular fantasy series, it actually starts out as a fantasy noir where Harry Dresden is a magician who happens to be an investigator, and you go to him when things cannot be explained but need to be looked into. It's grown to become more of just a standalone fantasy series, and the stakes are only getting higher for Harry Dresden. He not only finds himself involved in different magical factions of the world around us, but we also get to see him become a bit of a hero opposed to someone who's very often taken the back seat. With the stakes only getting higher, Harry has to become more powerful himself, and the deals he makes along the way to do it are quite questionable. At the end of the day, he's doing it for his city as well as his family and loved ones, and you really do get engrossed in the problems surrounding him and how he has to solve them. With book 18 around the corner, I believe it's going to be titled 12 Months, I cannot wait to see where the author takes him after the events that just happened. Feel free to check this one out. It's number 4 on my list for a reason. Let's go ahead and jump into my third favorite series, He Who Fights with Monsters. Another lit RPG. Our main character, Jason Asano, is taken from his own world and put into a magical world where he has to gain levels and power to survive. This series differs from The Wandering Inn because he's not an innkeeper in this one. He is an adventurer, someone who protects others around him at the cost of potentially his own life. My favorite part about this series is how Jason Asano, a fun-loving Australian man who's quick with a joke, is put through the grinder, and his character development speaks volumes to the author's ability to understand grief and pain. He not only tries to hold on to this immature version of himself that allows him to connect with the common folk, but also he has to grow to become a harder person, because if he doesn't grow a thicker shell and, to be quite candid, a more cutthroat attitude, he is not going to survive. This is a great series because we get to see what's happening on the world of Palimustis, the world that Jason was transported to, but also what's been happening on Earth and how the universe is almost conspiring against both planets. This is not something we get to see at a lot of other lit RPGs and really makes this one stand on out. Number 2 on this list has got to be the Greenbone Saga. I love this series. Can't say it's a perfect series because, you know, perfection is subjective, but to me, it definitely is up there. Fonda Lee, the author, does a magnificent job about writing on the struggles of the Call family. We have many perspectives seen in these books, but it mainly follows this family of rising young people who are taking over the criminal organizations that their father had built upon. Through those struggles, they are having to face not only other clans in the area who are trying to take them down to take their power, but also, the further we get in the series, the world itself. Jade is the stone or the element that gives people magical powers for those who have the aptitude to use it, and this small remote island is the only place on Earth where it can be mined. Really, the attention to detail with character development makes the Greenbone Saga stand head and shoulders above most other fantasy series. Fonda Lee did a magnificent job with this one, and I am very much looking forward to seeing what project she starts on next. There has been an announcement that a TV show on this book series is going to be coming out in the next few years, and I imagine if they stick to source material, it is going to be one of the best shows out there. Definitely pick this one up if you have not yet had the pleasure. Now, to get to my favorite series of all time, it has to be King's Dark Tidings, written by Kelcade. As of right now, there's 5 books out with, I believe, 7 in total planned out for this series in general. It follows our main protagonist, Rezkin, who grows up in a secluded fort, and since his first memories, he has been brutally trained to become the best version of anyone. He has absolutely no personality and is able to don on any mask and become any person he needs to, whether it be pauper or king. And with that great idea, as the plot thickens, we get to see Rezkin's talents in each of his books, whether that just be his powerhouse ability to take people out or his ability to maneuver political factions around him to get the end result he needs to. Really, the only guiding principles, because the man does not have morals, are the certain rules he was given since the day he was born. And by following those rules to a T, he's not only able to gain the respect of everyone he meets, but also the fear of those who dread his company. King's Dark Tidings is a magnificent series and is no contest of being my favorite one. I imagine it's going to be there for many, many years. If y'all haven't heard of this series, you need to go check it out now. King's Dark Tidings is a must read. And with that, that's my top 10 favorite fantasy series. I hope there was a few of them in there that you had not already heard of, because some of these are fantastic reads and I only want to spread the good word about them. Thank y'all all again for checking this video out, and be sure to keep reading.